I like this place. It's her 50th anniversary. Yeah, this is up near the area we were seeing on the other side on a different one of these when looking at Bays Mountain. That ridge in front of us, we were on the other side of that. We're now here. Okay, it's easier to talk. A lot of people up here today. I thought it would be emptier, but gorgeous day. So there's a whole lot more up here. It's packed actually, but it's so big, maybe we won't see a lot of people. You know, we went from the news to the Fun Fest parade, meeting Candace in the banner. Went to photograph the making bread and met the other lady that was with Candace. And that turned out to be Robin. Touched on a few things there. One of the things we touched on was the next step of what I had come across in this journey of summer wells. Somehow, and I do not remember how, it might have just popped up on a Google search. And that was the YouTubers and the various different quote shows. But the first one was somewhere in there was Chris. I can't remember now who was first, who I heard first. If I just heard one of the others, or if I heard Mr. McDonough, because it was somewhere during this time frame of YouTubings, and then hearing I think Don say that people told him to just get quiet, not say anything, stay off YouTube, basically lock yourself in your room and be quiet. And I remember thinking then that they'd go insane not having some way to communicate. And way in the back of my mind was the thought of a website where they could just put whatever they wanted to put, anything that came to mind, any picture, anything, just to have a place to release their thoughts during such a horrible, traumatic thing. And so somewhere in there, that idea first started trickling a little bit. But I do know I was working in the woods. We'd had a lot of trees cut down because the little bug that came and killed all the ash trees. And this area's been saturated, thousands. And I think we took down 10 in that one spot. So I'm cutting wood listening to the YouTubians. And it was very, 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 very quickly apparent to me of how Don was being utilized. But I guess I will discuss Chris McDonough's, because that was a key, two key interviews there that started out with such potential, but they also influenced me because I saw better what this family was up against. I knew Mainline media, and it didn't take long listening to the YouTube people that, I mean, they were very inexperienced and were not aware of what their little bit of influence and power could do to human beings. But I also knew that the mainline media would make the YouTubers look like, you know, well, let's just say the mainline was a forest. The YouTubers were a little stick. And I saw what they were doing, and I thought, man, the main media would kill them. Will absolutely kill Don and them, because it is the entertainment industry. Okay, it really is. And that doesn't mean that all mainline news people are bad. It just means the system's built as an entertainment system based on advertising. And here comes a call. It's Candace. Well, that was interesting. It was not her. It was some kind of hack computer, who knows what, using her number. But we're used to those sorts of things. I think I was talking about, I know these videos just are absolute, brilliant entertainment feasts as I talk, but it's a little too crowded up here, so it's slowed me down. We were discussing Mr. McDonough. Public figure, gets to be spoken about publicly, though politely. I have nothing against the man. He's probably a great guy. My personal opinion, though, is this, and I think I said it the other day, and that is that people who have skill sets that were made for private conference rooms at police stations, that's kind of where those skill sets are made for. So there you can say your own thoughts, your own opinions, and it's okay, because that's what you have to do in a case. You gotta discuss every angle, every little nudge, every little intuition, every, the experience of all your rodeos that you've been in. However, when you bring that skill set out into the public arena and start saying those things, it is brutal. Because to you, you're just giving an opinion, but your viewers are like sheep, and many of them are like wolves, and they hear what you just said, and it's like a napalm bomb. You can look that up. I may have said it wrong. Vietnam. And that's what happens. Your skill set suddenly is absolutely out of place and wreaks havoc, like any skill set will do when it's out of place, but especially when you take a behind-the-scenes, quiet conference room case investigators. Doesn't matter. I mean, they've 40, 50 years of experience. It's awesome in its right place. It wasn't made for public. It wasn't made for YouTube. Now, that doesn't mean you can't talk about a case in the situation. It's just you can't start dishing out rumor, imagination, instinct, intuitions, and that's what went crooked with Mr. McDonough, and he did it. I spotted it immediately. He was doing great on his interviews until he asked about the shed, and it's like he was offended because Candace wouldn't let him go to the shed. And I saw right then, I said, the man has stepped out of just an interviewer, and he's in his investigator's skill set that's only for an investigator that's actually on the case, not on a guest at someone's house. For him to get upset not getting to see that shed would be like me going to visit someone and then immediately saying, I want to go upstairs and look in your closet. I want to see what's in your closet. I mean, that is rude maximum. Now, I don't know if he meant that. I just think he tipped over back into his, amazing skills, but in the wrong place. And the second he did that, he ignited the question mark. But this question mark is full of gasoline. And so now everybody listening suspects. I mean, who really cares? I'm going to be straight. Who cares if Don was in that shed or not? It's his house. He has a perfect right not to talk to some stranger if he doesn't want to. That's not devious or horrible. So it was way out of line. And there's where it collapsed. Unfortunately, it couldn't be repaired. And unfortunately, instead of just letting it drift by or him coming on saying, hey, I shouldn't have done that, he fed it in his analysis, and it began to grow, and then it was unfixable. It immediately made everybody guilty, devious and secret, and everybody having to use their cliches, and but I'll say another thing. Who cares if I say it? But I'll say, speaking of cliche lines, another point. If I remember correctly, in one of those interviews, I heard Mr. McDonough begin to express about how his child, maybe a daughter, I don't know. I think he said he was in the house and he saw a van or something pull up, and they were basically, or some vehicle to try to kidnap his own daughter. And he ran out like a man would do to cook the guy's goose fast. The guy got away. And from then on, if I remember right, I think he said that was an inspiration for him and where this career would be. That was one of those moments in life that happens that triggers, your destiny per se. It gives the inspiration for what will be there, and the skill set you choose to perfect and utilize to help people. And I heard him tell that, and by that point he was already biting Don Wells pretty hard. And I have to pause just a momento, please. Okay. I'll pause when there's some people. Well, the fire was already done, and Mr. McDonough was already pretty well against Don. My first thought, this was my first quick thought. I'll just get to it. For some reason, Don represented that man that tried to steal Mr. McDonough's child, which is totally understandable. I think from that moment on, however that works in the mind of a man who's been through a traumatic thing himself. But when others started calling in and telling their stories, he was too quick to believe every word they said and too quick to negate anything that Don Wells said. And it wasn't balanced at all. You know, investigator, everything's on equal terms. You don't just yield to somebody who just suddenly calls in and says, yeah, he did this. I know there was a bunch of, you know, history and rodeos and all that kind of stuff, but still, unless you're an investigator on a job, you don't turn the public loose on somebody for a lynching. That's extremely unprofessional and dangerous, just humanly speaking, because Mr. McDonough really has no clue really what's gone on in Don's life. He's got some instincts, he's got some stuff, but you can't judge a man on a couple stories. You got to have all the stories, and there's plenty there that he doesn't know about Don's life, things that happened to Don, all that. So there's many factors that make someone behave or say certain things, or on it goes. And the other thing about that is you're exposing not just the man when you're biased. It's family. It's family history. It's part family that's really nice. It doesn't want all this blasted out when it's not the real law enforcement doing it. When there's not a case yet, when there's not a suspect arrested or anything. And that doesn't even count that he has, I'm going with it that Summer's alive. He'll have 4 teenagers, Don will, 3 boys and 1 girl, who are all going to be trying to figure out what all this was about and not go crazy themselves or not become vindictive, vendettas, whatever V word, on getting even with the people that treated their family so rotten and caused them so much heartache, especially if it turns out that it has nothing to do with Don and Candace, this case. Wolf is still snacking. If they really are innocent of this case. You know, essay is the big thing to say. Say. You know, it's speculation, total speculation. Just fine in the privacy of an investigator's office and consultation rooms and conference rooms, but absolutely out of its place on social media, on YouTube. And I've not just seen it in him, I've seen it in others. And I totally respect these men. I respect law enforcement maximum. Totally respect. But I have seen others. And that emotional aspect that they never had to tame in a conference room hardly. They don't have it online. And it's unfortunately, when it's exposed, it's huge damage to other people. And it inspires those of lesser caliber or experience. It feeds their feeds their dopamine fix. Because most of the reason people like this stuff is because it does give a fix. It gives a emotional dopamine fix, which is a thrill, which is addicting. It's addictive. That's why crime stories are so exciting. It gives a fix in a boring world. or a crazy world. And it's like anything that inspires dopamine, it can become addictive. And when you have somebody of the experience and caliber as Mr. McDonough suddenly become gossip and rumors and thoughts of imagination, and he'll destroy one man with words, but he'll believe a woman who comes up with, and I should rephrase that, not believe, but allow a woman that comes up with outright horrendous imaginations of how Summer was daily being abused in a shed, and he won't put a stop to it, but just allows it to be said, acting as if he's just the interviewer, but not stopping it. No conception of what that does to families. When you're living in hell every night because you don't know what's happening to your daughter, and you've got to hear stuff like that, and people are believing it, and then the sun sets, and then you start thinking, what if that's what's happening to her? When there's no proof, no vindication, just total crazy rumor. The guy that lets it be played and doesn't stop it, he's responsible. And so yes, I hold Mr. McDonough completely responsible for some horrendous things that were done, horrendous things that hurt people. And it's not really fixable. I mean, he could fix it himself with apologies. Bad learning curve. Hope it's a learning curve. Hope he's realized, oops. But you don't do that. You don't allow insane imaginations. Not that the person's insane, but the imagination that goes so crazy that it comes up with a story that, you know, every day the daughter can be dropped off in a shed for men to have her, and, you know, like nobody knows it. You know, boys don't know it, nobody knows it. It just gets insane. But it feeds those who can't control their emotions, who also have the power of YouTube if they want to use it. And before you know it, you've got guys threatening his life. And we all know about all that. I mean, you have people twice in the same few sentences say they want to pull their 9mm and put it to his head. Who's guilty? Who's guilty? And I'm not saying Mr. McDonough is guilty for that, but I'm saying once it's ignited by someone of a professional status, you know, us rookies, especially those who suddenly have a little influence using a YouTube channel, they start inspiring those of mental deficiency, whoever they are. And I'm not saying the one with the 9mm was, I'm saying anybody. It inspires those kind of emotions in people, and it wreaks havoc. Absolutely havoc. It's dangerous, it's horrible, and it causes more damage on more damage. And every time it would do it, yes, Don would get on to try to counter it, because he's sitting there trying to keep his sanity and not think about his daughter being abused, you know, in some other guy's shed. And it just spreads. And so then what do they do? Then they take what he says in his fits of response and then they use that against him. And neither knows how to stop. They point their finger at Don all day long about him. But no, I'm sorry. They're on total equal ground, because they couldn't stop either. They had to feed the entertainment like wolves. Gorgeous wolf. And I'm not saying they're wolves, but their behavior feeds that tendency of a pack. And it doesn't take much studies you can read on the pack mentality. It's like a mob rule. It spreads, and YouTube is one of the worst, because the restraint factors aren't in place fully yet. most YouTube does is, you know, say a few initials and maybe you can get by with something. And they've got a few other restrictions, but there's not restrictions that need to be done of a much higher caliber. And I think we should all totally agree on that. There should be no way that you can play somebody's private telephone call publicly on social media without their permission. That's a no-brainer. You can fight it all day long until it's you or me. No, that ain't free speech. Free speech is the phone call. In Tennessee, we're allowed, as long as one person agrees to it being recording, which could be me, let's say I call you, then that's legal. You know, I can do that. Just one person. I don't even have to tell you I'm doing it. But until social media came, that wasn't going to get blasted to the whole world. And phone calls are not the real person. We're talking to little machines when we're on the phone, and we'll say things, we'll respond in certain ways, we'll do lots of things that aren't the same as when we're in person. And Don would do the YouTube. And that's really where we're trying to hold it at right now, is the great interviews of Chris McDonough, except for the shed, which, you know, there's a Bible scripture, a little leaven, a little yeast. Leaven's the whole lump, just takes a little. Well, that's, the shed was the leaven. It destroyed the 2 wonderful loaves of bread. Those 2 interviews would have really been good. For Candace to welcome you into her home. That was a woman welcoming you into her home, into her life, into her yard. You were a guest. She didn't know. If I'd known her then, I would have said, don't. Because this guy might be great, but if he puts it out there, others will tear it apart. People that don't understand the lifestyle of this area, people that don't understand why. They can see things with their eyes, but they don't understand why. And we'll always judge on our own convictions and blah, 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 on it goes. I won't analyze that. So I saw that, and then I saw, remember, I'm out in the woods cutting wood usually on this stuff. I found myself starting to get angry when I started to listen to others that Don was calling into, because I saw what they were doing. Oh, it was so obvious. I didn't even know the man, but I saw it so clear. They were playing on his vulnerability. And since most would be women, they would essentially go into their mother mode and would just woo him right to him until he let down his guard. And he would try to open up and be honest, whether he was whiskeyed or not. And it was all bogus and fake. And that was just so clear. That was so obvious and so clear. They were using him for entertainment. And everybody kept saying, we're doing this to help find Summer. Yeah. That'll be another topic. They were using him. And it was so clear. And unfortunately, quite a few of them just don't like law enforcement to start with. And that's what killed me too, because I have a huge respect for law enforcement. They're a billion miles past any of us and what they can do these days. The science is huge. The technology is huge. Their experience is huge. Not rookies just asking questions thinking they're going to find the answer. And that's not a bad word, rookies. It just means, good grief, put me on a ball field with a professional ball team, and yeah, I'm the rookie. Rookie. It's a office of inexperience, and there's no training for YouTube creators how to be a YouTube creator. There's no psychological training on how they can affect people, sociological training on how they can affect people. It's just one big gigantic learning curve party. But these are humans. Humans are the toy of the party. And I'm not saying there's not sincerity, but it's sincerity of a rookie. They don't know what they're doing. They do not know the damage. They do not know how they're aggravating the situation. Especially somebody who's battled anyway in their life. You know, you don't pound someone who's already has weaknesses, because you'll push them over the edge. And you think you're doing a service of some sort. Maybe it's just to your audience, maybe in your mind you actually think you're helping. But you're not really listening, because law enforcement tells you you're not helping. So there's really no way to wiggle out of it. Those who know best are telling you you're damaging it. You're damaging the case. And not only damaging the case, but you're pushing people to suicide. And then when people try to step in to help these people from losing their own life because of the attacks of unprofessional individuals, don't have to be professional, just experienced with humans and kindness, consideration, not to mention, guilty until proven innocent, which isn't what it says. Yes, you're innocent until proven guilty, but there's people who are the ones that do that proof. And they're good at it. And yeah, occasionally something good pops out of social media, investigators and YouTubers, but that literally would be the needle in the haystack. Very rare. So it's entertainment. And that's the industry. YouTube entertainment industry. News is entertainment industry. Dr. Phil is entertainment industry. It's just how it works. I'm not saying that in a negative way. That's just how it all works. It's based on advertising and money. And that's just how it works. So that's a reality. So, yes, Don especially was being used for entertainment purposes. Did it push him where he's at right now? Everybody will just have to decide that on their own. I know the night of the DUI he was pushed. Like I told one investigator, I don't put jello on anything that Don decided to do on his own. You know, whether people knew about it or didn't know about it in his life during these many months. But I know the night of the DUI he was pushed. I saw it. I knew it. Because I knew him by then, and I saw the setup. And to them it was entertainment and ha-ha, and see, we kind of told you he was a no good guy. Yeah. I'm not sure the great judge will see it that way. Currently. There's always room for forgiveness. And then those things can be washed away. But it hadn't happened yet. So yeah, I will say that. Putting nothing else aside, not trying to make Don anything, some kind of saint. He won't even do that to himself. He knows better than that. But I will say this. He was pushed that night. He was pushed. He was tricked and he was pushed. And it was a pattern that would happen. And let me make it clear. I ain't putting jello on any decision because he still made the decisions. But the question is how much of those decisions were made because he was pushed.